Here's you to me. Site communication is all about understanding what is an adventure. How do we understand adventures of ourselves? It's understand the true understandings of our systems applications. As you know, in the calculation, when we were live in calculation settings and TikTok information screen, you understand the opportunities, what's happening to our systems, correlation lines, attractions. We're coming into a global awareness of an expansion. Okay, starting off with space-time operations. All right, it's all going to be all lines of communication center. It's already been taken over, but the process of the communication setting is more lines of the body, understanding the adaptation at the surface, understanding the triangulation reline calculations of travels, puts all communications back information. To know exactly the basic grounds of your alchemies, understand how the coloration, the lights, and correlation and track interference, how to mixture the patterns, how to avoid the track interference, how to set up binary correlation lines of application. It's all about you through schematics. Your body is a map. So understanding the alchemy is understanding the chemistry of what's inside, how to mix the atom and the molecule, and how to mix the molecule to electron to the photon, and the proton and the neutron and the neuron. Everything is a core setting and calculation system, right? So within that track locations, coming in that line communication setting, we'll get you more detail what's going on with the quantum healing activation academy, right? Inside locations. That formates the screen lines, adaptation lines of service, gets you better understand how you can basically look at yourself and be able to heal yourself. The basic grounds how to heal yourself. Okay. So once you understand how to heal yourself, in the academy it also shows you how to heal others in track location in the basic grounds of pre-activation screens. It all connects the lines of mapping, sequence lines, of code lines, the screen lines, adaptation lines of service. But you have to really understand how to mechanize your system first through you through operation. You master your communication settings. So with the academy, I'm not going to get too much in detail in it, but it has a lot of open doors for everybody else through their position, to their settings, to their business, to their associations, to their systems, all through calculation modified. Right? So that's what's happening through all levels of opportunity. So understanding the global awareness of you is truly understanding the lines of communication, the basic grounds of you, understanding your earth, your air, your water, and your fire, right? You have 5 elements. How do I use that through my fingers, right? Well, we have to look at information locations to understand what our fingers are used for and how do we use it in point graph communication and screen lines adaptation. How do we use the barcode in direct signals? How do we use the core track lines to our panels of our arm? How do we use the indicate line communication number sequence? How do we use the panel correlation lines of metal interface? How do we use the mesh lines, screen lines, adaptation lines of surface? How do you use the clocking centers to each finger point location? All right. Understanding yourself is mastering yourself, knowing thyself, loving thyself unconditionally. So this is also a process that you guys have to come into. It's the awareness of consciousness of you and the awareness of consciousness of everything around you, right? Getting into that lines of his communication comes into its own technique, right? It's understanding you master one technique rather than 80 million techniques. So it's about understanding the basic rounds of each chakra that high formates the screen lines adaptation to your surface to understand how to communicate with your zeros to 114 in track location. Just the basic rounds in each lines of a communication setting. The better you communicate with your body, the better it gets healed in track locations and measure. Now, this comes in all lines of communication to understand how to use it through your cells, your atoms, your molecules, and protons, electrons, neutrons. Understand how to formulate that, understand how to communicate with that, understand how to build a friendship partnership with that, understand how to go in collaboration with that set of locations. The most powerful thing you have to understand through your body is understanding your body as an activator. See yourself as a vessel, understand the vessel of you. Understand the position locations where the body itself recognizes its own system. It can heal its own system, but it has to understand, why is the body inside me? Why? What's going on? It's how, right? It's knowing the body's just a vessel, and that's all it is. Okay, so once you understand that, so formations that you have to synchronize yourself into yourself to understand yourself. 1 + 1 = 3. All right. That tracks this division line connection setting because the expansion of space-time operation is healing the activations of all calculated, modified, and all track locations of healers healing themselves of others. That's all provisions, lines of cycles, and track locations right through its provision, right? So it's exciting what we're coming into. All right, track location line centers. Getting direct lines of panels, okay? All lines of high correlations, getting a deeper core and line communication of clockings and tractions. Now, getting in the fluctuation screens and direct signals is really understanding how to modify the signals and location of your settings and travel. Okay, so starting off with the basic grounds is understanding you through your Earth. Let's start there. That's your Earth, right? Let's go through the powers, right? We're going to go through simple location centers. There is your location, your atmospheres, right? Grounds, powers, atmosphere, right? Let's go through triangulation and the three-line connection. Let's go through a formation screen lines adaptation of its Earth's application. All right, pretty simple, right? You're connected to the Earth. Earth's connected to you through your powers and like in setting. That's a three-track location, right? Now you got your cloud, okay? Inside correlation setting calculates to your cortex and traction, right? Your power generator line screen is high center interference of its transit. This is the transit's application of your system platform. That's how it's set up in traction. Okay, face recognition. See the face? See the face? See? North, look, 6 and 9. 6 and 9. Knowing things are everything done in likeness, you don't have to look at everything because everything's in plateau. But the position lines are high correlation lines. The Earth is in its own system. The power lines of generation is its own system. And the magnetic high information line screen, your data highways, the Army highways, and the Euro highways is already traffication provision of cycles. But now you can really see the face in traction, right? 6 and 9, right? Did I look at what I was doing? No. Do I know what I'm doing? Yes. Where is it in traffication and setting? It's all of its information, location, and balance, right? All right, so understanding the platforms, this is how it works in track location, right? And you go through 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 set locations, right? That's 5 set locations. Then you come into location grid. Okay, there's location grid I was talking about, right? Then you come in lines of security line, defense lines, and set location news calculation and setting, right? Very powerful how this is all set up. So the platitude division line changes the course lines and navigation, your astral projections, your astral travels into core line communication with setting. That operates a system and calculates lines, okay, in panels of communication, right, in track location. Okay. All right, so it's direct and redirecting signals and communication graph calculation, screen lines, adaptation lines of surface. So it's truly understanding you through your own holographic system location to your Earth, your powers, and your atmospheres and set locations. It's a 3-line provision, right? Now understanding how to use that is let's get in position travel lines. Now in direct line signals, this is the Earth. Now this is the Earth, right? Change the Earth over here, track location line connection setting. Remember, this is all through the mind line adaptation lines of surface. Now we're going through coloration. Let's go into all communication interference. We'll go into the brown, the Earth line, correlation track interference. Then we go into the water communication screen lines adaptation. We have direct line signals into blue, which is water. All right, so you say what it is. I told the team not to get into much comfortability with the tracker systems because that limits your resource line connected to your travels and navigation, this application, right? So your Earth is here now. So what's this? In line connection setting. Space anomaly and track lines, just black line surface, all right? Travel locations and in position programs and direct line signals. Putting that process of communication setting is to know exactly what you're doing through all wiping sequence, colored it all in black, rotates the surface track location, and blends in with everything else in track line conditions all at once in high position of its program setting at track location. All right, disappeared. So I drew it in coloration, but see, it wanted to stay in face recognition. You didn't see what I was doing, but you should know what I'm doing because the face knows what's going on, right? So if I do it again in position, then you see the coloration. I just wanted to show you what intelligence can do through communications when you understand the collaboration and what you're dealing with of its own intelligence, of its own track location. See, now it's colored in, right? In position locations, right? So the face is covered, but now it's in space lines and only Earth is in floating space line. All right, so we core the attractions, we direct lines of signals and line communication setting, position location. Now, the Earth line rotation surface is going to travel lines of clock locations. We're going to direct lines of panels. Let's go with the line signals in line condition to its position, right? Travel correlation of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 set locations, right? Then we're going to go through line settings, and we're going to set the center core into magnetic force lines location of screen. That directs the signals. We color it in line screen. Direct modification lines, psychedelic high coordinates and track interference. Lines of all communication setting. Psychological communication with surface and traction. Now, getting into that position, you gotta know exactly what you're doing in travel, especially when you're dealing with the actual Earth in your set location, right? So it has to recognize every movement that you're doing in seconds, minutes, and hours, and hours, minutes, seconds. I'm just going to get into that, how it's in your clock location settings, where the team's in center line communication this way, and calculations and line interference going in set location back in time, right? So clocking line, back in time line location set into its alignment and tractions. Direct modification lines of cyclism, high correlation lines of track location. 2 Earth line rotation surface track from here to here. Sets communication lines, travel lines, signal lines, communication, and a brown surface and travel. Points lines of graph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in set locations, right? So we got a coloration lines of black, coloration lines of brown, but it's the same planet. Signify correlation lines of infinity 8 rotation surface and a ground line surface and track location of setting. Operation line cycle sets communication. Let's go through coloration lines of screens. Let's go in security line. Set up an infinity 8 line rotation surface and track location of provision that opens up all lines of communication lines of its programming line of sonar and track location line conditions high center interference and all levels of formation ground lines and track location. Okay? Intelligence. See it? See intelligence? See intelligence? There's the intelligence. Right? Eyes of the windows is in the side location system, right? All right, there's the intelligence. Okay? So it's amazing how you can go through a 4-line cycle and see all formations all at once in track locations, all through provisions of 2 I-line cycles of 2 Earth line rotation surface and I division, right? So you got 2 Earth routers, line conditions of right and line conditions of left, track location of right, track location of left. Understanding the right line is understanding the left line. Now you have to understand direct and redirect, and that's what's going on with your eye provision lines of the spectrum. Changing all that communication lines and calculation of position, all levels of formation location in your system through formula. All right, so track location line conditions is a clocking. Let's go through bracket center interference. 1 clock system, 1 calculation setting, 3 track lines of provision lines of 3 cycles in generation. Clock line centers, center, position, location, center, operation, line condition, setting, position of its program. Direct lines, course, center interference, to center position, travel. Points, lines of graph into energetic line screening location. Direct lines, high center interference, and position locations of face recognition. Okay? Now, getting comfortability in line calculation setting, you set graph communications, flux communication line screens adaptation, right? Set up sonar, communications all levels. Electrical line communications, flux, sets lines of correlations going direct and redirected signal, all right? Communication line interference into all levels of an energetic line screen and high adaptation to its intelligence information. Intelligence. Then you come into the clustrum. Then you come into the structure of its design, its application. All done by equation, right? So this is Lothian gray in correlation lines of traction. Okay. Brain's frequency line screens is above the line calculation setting, so you have to understand why the brain is in the cloud line. It communicates lines of cortex lines and highest interference, affects position location, your settings of travel, points lines of graph mapping, sequence location setting, and all communication setting, navigation system, and travel correlation. All right, so your central system understands the configuration of face lines. Each clocking has a face. Now, direct lines of correlation and setting attractions. Let's go for the 1 cycle and 4 line rotation cycles in generation, right? 4 generation cross line calculation setting and 4 over 3, right? Platitudes 1 platform, 2 platform, 3 cycles and 4 rotations. Calculation cross line signals, indirect line modification. Pluto comes in traction. There's Pluto, right? Saturn's here in track location 2 provision. And we got calculation lines and Mercury in 1 line cycle. Calculate high interference and track locations and line interference. comes in all track location, high calculation, high line rotation surface into Jupiter and two waving panels in track location. Okay. Symbolism line screen. We get NX 2000 rotors and line screen. Calculation laser grid crosses line screens, goes around the cycle into the box frame, around the system in track locations, around the system and panels and correlations, back in line position of its program set location. Crosses line signal is the center communication line that opens all track location line connected to the setting. Very complicated stuff. They're all central lines of 3 center correlations. All right, so kaleidoscope lines of line screens sets position lines of perimeters and parameters in set locations. Travel mechanism line cross line centers has a data formation screen that opens all signals and location settings in a formation line calculation setting to a kaleidoscope, a camera ops, and travel line rotation surface and track location. Camera. Complicated, right? Look who's inside, controlling the mechanism lines of the travel. Intelligence, right? Process communication is understanding how to coordinate and communicate to its setting all through calculation. Okay? And if you look really close, you can see what it is, right? It's pretty wild when you start to understand what's really going on in position location. All through structure lines and pixelation, graph correlation lines, attractions. Direct lines of symbols, direct lines of center, and direct lines of communication and set location. All right. So getting the position lines is a triangulation line that sets lines of communication lines of 3 settings, 3 rotations, and 3 track line conditions setting. Another box line rotation surface and line communications of data of formation screen. Okay. Putting process communication, we add color lines. The screen lines adaptation 1 surface. Platitudes 1 the course line screen and adaptation lines of center, correlation, track, and interference and high position locations. All levels of temperature reading as a track location. All right, you see it now? See the correlation? See the Merkaba pyramid line? See, you can see it come out. All right. Spin it, cycle line communications, move it over track lines, move it left, right, communication line centers, operation line surface, and track location. Center communication line sets lines of communications. So let's change the communication lines of color, direct lines of signals. All right, Jupiter's on a green line cycle. Back to modify. Lines are higher interference, but Saturn lines is center course system and green line circles in track location and setting. Sets position of 5 perimeters. Sets lines of 3 track line calculations and position programs. Now, directly line signals known as line signals into 3 track line provisions and 1 cycle line communication. Directs modification lines of cycle lines, high correlation track interference of probing, and line conditions all levels of webbing and track location line provisions of cycles. That's my equation. Right? It's great to get in color. Directing modification lines of direct signals is all about understanding how to use the clocking systems and going forward in attractions. So we go through block line centers and travel and point lines of clocking, setting all communication to its flux, and flux communication setting to travel. Points lines of graph. 3 weather patterns indicates 1 position, 1 flywheel tractions, 8 line centers and travel communication. Direct lines of console. Navigation 1 arrow indicates 1 cross line screen into 1 atom. Surface lines, half pipe, line screen, high direct signals in position of its location system and travel correlation. Direct modification lines is all levels, graph calculation screens. That's what you see in the dimensional wall. Point line, graph communication. Center core lines, high interference. Flux communication, this is where it comes into bubble defense. You probably see that on my dimensional wall, right? Correlation lines of bubble defense, correlation lines of security line, defense lines, and communication in that setting. Travel point lines of graph calculation lines is the flux communication lines, high interference, console communication lines of travels. Points lines of correlating high interference, clock line settings, flux communication lines going forward and direct and redirect and signal and set locations. Process communication line centers, advocate position lines of 24 line angle, sets lines of high center 48, 72 and 144, platform communication of 0 line, center course system and travel lines of point graph communication. Done by equation, right? And so it's all about understanding the mapping sequence and graph correlation setting, how this all sets up communication to its flux. Direct and line communications of the team has to understand more lines of communications, understanding how to go forward and how to go backwards in some locations. right? So the set position is going forward now, right? And this is going backwards. The center core system has its flywheel that tracks its system locations, right? But the platforms have to have a line communication setting in the program. Then it crosses line signals and set location to its setting through operation. Then it goes into hierarchical relations with the platforms in line communication. Then it goes in cross-line connections on southwind location setters. And then it goes into angle point lines of platforms communication to its setting. Then it goes to higher correlation lines and expansion line communication set location. Then it goes into higher correlation setting in line communications back and forward in track location. Okay. Directing lines of center is really understand the information screen where it calls and communication settings of platform communication. Direct calculates lines, XD1000 comes in and a 2-track line communications. Scan lines, scans position of 1, 2 of platforms and 3. 3 lines of communication, 1, 2, 3 track locations. Indirect lines, scans lines, center line 1 and scans lines of 2. Sets communication lines, open up the signals, open up the panels, open up distractions, open up divisions, open up the color, calculation, screen lines, adaptation, of course, and track location. Okay, very powerful, isn't it? So if you look above, you can actually see the pyramid track location of setting. All right. It's much easier if you understand what you're doing with your holographic screen lines. Platforms A, platforms B, and position of center core setting. Sets all communication to its position of its program and line setting location to code weaving and track location. Spider-Man. Right in the center. See Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man right in the center, right? Eye looking through cross-line screen. Let's colorate the communication lines of red, and that's security line defense. Okay, let's really turn it into Spider-Man and track location. Spidey senses, all through clock locations. That's what the team has to get into. Spidey senses. All levels of awareness of conscious location to its setting. Spider-Man. Okay. Also wings and correlation lines attractions. Panel correlation lines that indicate position of programs and position location to its setting of travel. And set locations. All right. So everything that you do has a mechanism of force and it positions and process communication lines. It sets up alignments. So I'm going to show you exactly what goes on when you guys go in your set lines on calculation setting when you're in position of process of sleeping. Okay. So coordinate track line size interference. There's you in correlation setting, metabed, right? Automatically line scaring line interference. Here is the plasma of the TV that goes into your eye correlation, right? So you see through that through platforms, right? So this is what's going on, and your avatar is here in position and track location. Okay, that's all it is. It's a plasma screen that correlates the system into the metabed. Okay, set correlation. This is your bed and track location, right? And so that's how it's set up. And the sun comes in the moon comes in the sun, correlates the system, and you travel through correlation lines of traction. That's what goes on. It's simple, guys. It's just basically understanding what's going on in these 3 central calculation settings. You have the grounds of the earth, okay? You have the center lines, centers of the earth, and the rotation spin cycles of your earth through ethers. And you have your core set location to your universe. 4 track provision crosses line signal set location. All through adaptation. Crossing line communication line screen is all about levels of transitions over communications of pi. But you have to understand the central system, what goes on with you in line communication setting of travels. All right. So getting the basic grounds is knowing exactly what's happening with your avatar. I want you guys to understand that because your clockings are going to get a lot more confusing now because it's speeding up anomalies of your body lines. Center core system and 2-track location. Kaleidoscope line screens and set locations, right? Process communication lines is 1 cycle, 1 center. Process communications is center line communications of balance lines of core. Track division lines of cycles, 1 generation, 2 track locations. Modify 1 center, 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 1 center. Okay, spin it through cycles into a tunnel in the defense line and of course lines of track location. Set out data highways and line connection setting and cross-line wind cycles and line connection setting and travel correlation. Very powerful. All right. is all through clock locations, guys. But look, face recognition, face right there. Always a face, always a face. Remember that. So drawing is knowing that everything is drawn, right? So everything I do, it's not just done. It's just in a core track provision. And it's already done through its muscle memory, through indications to its avatar. So if you get into that balance, you don't really worry anymore. It's a confidence line that just basically, you have a water containment of a graph in position of console, in position locations to your Earth and track location. Balance communication is the separation in between that keeps you off calculations. This is your transits and line connection settings. But you have to extend the platforms that are going forward in traction. Getting in that position, it gets much easier so your avatar knows exactly what it's doing through its monitoring system as it's traveling through its dimensions of space and time. Once it understands, it opens up the sun, opens up the moon, and goes all line communication as portal and line communications. Travels line centers and comes into line condition setting, comes into all correlation tracks, line condition setting graph into travel mechanism. Okay, going from here, coming out, and flying. Flying or levitating? Flying is angel. Okay, flying is an angel. That's the angel, right? Levitating is line settings in your system turning into your XT1000 travel. Okay, so you have to understand how to modify your system, how to coordinate your settings. So when you are in remote, you're in position either in levitation or you're in flying. You have to understand the difference because this is a core track vision, how you see direct and redirect through your eye cycles and your eye spectrum correlation lines and track lines, how the sun and the moon comes to you in tractions. That's right, guys. When the sun and the moon comes to you, it opens up its portal, which is this black hole. I already showed you through the Oracle system, through the travel mechanisms of the globe, where you saw the actual portal open up through a black hole. So what is going on when space and time comes to you? It opens up a wormhole for you to go through, right? So space and time does not come to you until you understand you. You understand? You have to understand the mechanism of you first. The basic grounds is your chakras, understand, transmit, and receive, and you through your GOD, how to use it is how to understand how to use it. It's all levels of how. It's not the why, it's the how. Why becomes the how. So when the how is everything in that communication setting, then it becomes into the why, the what, the where, the who, and the when, right? That all equals lines of how and locations. But now you understand when the sun and moon comes to you, now you understand it's opening up a black hole in connection setting. So it's black and gold in traction. So once you get into lines of remote, you're either flying through an angel or an archangel, a meta angel, or mark or in connection setting, anything that formation location angelics, or you're in position of levitation, or you're in position of grounds. Grounds, levitation, or flying. Okay, there's 3 track divisions. So you should know exactly what's going on in your structure of design through frame. Again, that coordinates position, location, your clockings in a 24-line cycle. Your body's speeding up and your mind is slowing down. Okay? So when your mind slows down, you can actually see that you're flying. You can actually see that you're levitating, and you can actually see that you're walking the platforms of grounds through your avatar. But the process of communication setting is you in position of its middle bed in track locations. That's what the avatar does. It protects the body that it's in. Right? All right, so that just gives you basic grounds. So you should know if you're levitating, you're flying, or you're on the grounds and walking through the VR system, right? Setting position of travel, it's really a lot more easier to understand your clocking systems. It gets you a better understanding. Let's say we go through line settings. Remember our location setting, modification lines and modules? Let's go through 23 tracks. And line centers add 2 track locations because now it's at 25. And we're going to add 5 line settings in travel and point graphs. Setting communication lines into 29. We're going to add a 5-line center, equals lines of correlations of a box into a triangulation frame and traction. That directs line signals and line communications setting and the line centers. And that's how the seconds, minutes, and hours work. So in line communications, you're on 3 seconds. You have to break down the line centers of 4, right? So we got 3 and set location line communication setting. Let's get in line communication set. Okay, so we're at 30 point lines of graphs. Okay, so that's 3 seconds. Okay, 0 gravity. Okay, 2 indicated up and 2 indicated down, a binary. And then you got 2 bracket communication of 0, 0. So that puts position lines equals lines of core track interference. 2 panels correlation line calculations of travels. Position of the sun and the moon comes in line setting all levels of operation surface, brings all communication as formulas and track location. Indirect signal. Panel communication across line, in line condition setting, and waving line communication, cross waving, cross location centers of travel. Points, lines, of graphs, and pi generation. Clocking system through calculations. This is clocking system, guys. Directing lines are going this way. Okay, so you have to understand it's not going back, it's going forward and back now. Okay, so once you understand that, then you understand the pi and how it coordinates the communications travel in mechanism line condition, all through calculations. Because what are you looking at? What are you looking at? What is that? What does it look like? What does it look like? What does it look like? All right. Okay. So this is basically seeing the pie chart. This is the command center. Right? Pie chart, command center. Pie chart. See the pi indicates position 1/3, 1/5, 1/8, 1/6, 1 line, 1/12, 1/14, 1 traction. It directs lines into this applications to command center. Setting provision lines of cycles sets lines of communication setting of clock line condition setting and position operation surface. Position lines as locations. And this is where the planets come in. Gets tricky because the planets come in routers and routers, and line can use satellites and Wi-Fi and track location. Planets come in, that's the line of 3-line rotation surface and travels. But they have a direct signal and a triangulation with split lines of anomaly that tracks its location setting and schematics of our screen. It directs lines and modification lines of the kaleidoscope in one line sector and rotation surface and track location setting of port of communication. Very, very complicated stuff to clocking. Okay? And this is all through clocking systems and settings, right? So it's clocking or it's not clocking. It all depends what you want through programming. So it's about repositioning your value and how to use it through time lines, time sector, time pi, time correlations, all through track location. From this to that. See that now? You can see it now in a map. You can see it through pi, but you can see it through a map. And you got to coordinate all lines of all communication setting. So the direct and redirect is basically set up your lasers inside you. It's like you're going like this and like, all right, it's done, right? So you line signal yourself. You set your sky grid lines, screen lines, high set interference, high position programs, sky panels, sky direct line conditions, solar line direct line signals, the compulsories, communications, and all those, the convulsions, line condition, high interference, your parallels, your paradigms, polar shifts, your track location lines to setting the travels, all through correlation line conditions, setting through pi, location, and traction. All right. So it gets tricky. But this is the basic grounds when you're in remote. Okay? You're here. Understand what's going in here. Understand what's going flying, what's here in levitation. These are the 3 track locations. You're all connected to everything all at once, right? But you get a better understanding. Are you walking on the grounds in a plasma walk? Are you levitating in a UFO? Or are you flying through an archangel? Or a medic arc or location setting and travels? Each line has a travel mechanisms. Now you understand the planes of view to high calculated setting. Coming into the plane of existence is the spacing lines of clocking. They're direct line conditions where the body's slowing down, but the mind's speeding up. Setting that track line's high center interference where the team is a trackification where the body's speeding up, the mind's slowing down. So that's a provision cycle. So we're coming in correlation lines calculations. Getting your grounds and all information to a system is all of the correlation setting, how you see yourself through pi, through generation to generation to generation to generation. Okay? Very complicated stuff. You can turn that, now it's a Coliseum, right? It can be anything at once, but it's never in the same connection settings of its own GOD. The GOD is going too fast, and it never coordinates communication settings. Setting position locations, going to put team line screen. Okay, team is going to go through line, screen, line interference, instead of occasion portal lines, 1 center, 1 core centers. We're going to go through 3 Earth line rotation at transit set location. Now, I'm going to set up a half pipe, and you're going to see your space bend. Right? And it just bend, right? Setting correlation lines of platforms 1 in position of 2 and 3 in line condition, right? Process communications inside and set locations to one set location outside attraction. You see how that works? Inside, so that's inside habitation, right? Which is a zone, equals lines, let's say equals lines at Earth, equal lines 24 attraction, right? So that's 2 inner cycles of clocking and set location, right? Now you got the outside, which is inhabitation, okay, of Earth, equals lines of 24 locations. All right, so you're working with the clocking line center. So if you're in inner cycle, you're going forward in traction, right? It's not going back. Now in position, if you're going line conditions going back in time, you're in the outside cycle, which is the inhabitation zone. Because you have to understand how it works with the Earth. Your perception is line condition settings in 144 platform. That positions your platforms in position of center and course settings in track location. Direct lines modification is the outline change communication line screens. It aligns a high center interference of panels and communication higher levels of platforms in line condition. Okay, so it gets very complicated if you understand your half pipes and track location. How to travel is very important through line condition with XT1000. Platitudes aligns centers high interference, sets another half pipe in this application, travels lines, splits lines, core track interference, line communicates system, and travel coordinates line and energetic dome screens is application. Platitude division location. Look, UFO, docted system. All right, see, UFO, docted system. See how that works? So I want you to really understand and not just see it on one platform, in one file, see it in all platforms all at once in track location to provision. Very complicated stuff, right? All through the hologram. The mechanism lines of force line communicates the lines of screen lines, adaptation lines of surface and track locations, but the provision lines of cycles starts with this. Has to start somewhere, okay? Because it's already happened. So this is the process in position, location, setting, and recalculation and reconfiguration locations and muscle memory. Understanding you through metal bed, understanding you through platform, understanding you through flying, and understanding you through levitation. So that is a line communication setting that elongates your system location of travels, especially when you come to pi through planets and traction. Very complicated stuff, all through clockings. Okay, in that direct line signals, once you get into all communication system, it gets a lot more trickier, right? Because you're going to higher levels of pi in track locations. The transit line communication, the Earth line, changes in habitation zones because now the team is coming into all line communication settings of 111 and equals lines according to setting track lines in position of 112, equals lines of 113, and line condition setting at 114. Summer, spring, winter, fall, guys. Summer, spring, winter, fall, right? All right. So understanding the weather panels is understanding the mechanism location of galaxy screens. Let's get a tunnel to defense lines of correlation lines of track interference. Setting communication lines of center line. Clocking system is all levels in habitation and outer habitation zones of track location. Direct lines of calculation modification, one center, one operation surface, and an energetic line screen high interference into particle systems of 0, 0, 0 of 4 lines of 3 line communication to its identification. Direct calculation lines to energetic line screen and high center line position operation. Calculate modify in one center course system changes line communications measure and scales in 1, 2, and 3 line conditions. Program setting of platforms goes in one setting, one direct signal, case in its data highways. Process communicates into position over its 1, 2, and 4, and 6 locations. Direct lines of sonar, 1, 2, 3, and track location. Direct lines modification to an energetic grid line and screen lines of high formation screen lines, adaptation lines of course. Direct lines that change the delta headings and track location or energy line screen location to assist them through habitation. So we got a line communication XT1000 in position location in a habitation zone and in positions to inhabitation, habitation. Center course system has a separation line screen, directs lines of panels. One signifies one set location of travel. Points lines of graph into the panel communication lines as a 0, 0, 0, 4 line communications equals lines of each. That's atmosphere, line calculates the setting, and hemisync correlates and track interference, and Fibonacci screen adaptation lines of surface. Program setting and high interference is understand the location of 0 lines of platforms, communication of 4 settings, and position lines of 1 H line router line rotation surface, and track locations. Equal lines, equals lines, equals lines, equals lines, and core center and track communications. Direct lines of center, direct lines of surface, direct lines of division, and rotation surface, and track location. Okay, very complicated stuff, right? Travel mechanism lines and course lines and coordinate setting to understand generate lines, screen lines, power correlations in 3 centers. Position of 1 platform, docking 1, position of 2 track location, right? Split lines of anomaly, right? Splits lines of anomaly. Okay, so it's a compass and a center core system that changes all communication. It's pretty simple, right? But you have to understand the platforms, okay? You have to understand the platforms, how they connect. Everything connects, guys. Everything has to connect. Everything has to connect, okay? Everything has to connect. So this connects and this connects, right? So once you understand the connections, everything, you've center and core this system of a flywheel, track location lines of provision and center core. Calculates lines, opens all signal line coordinates and setting into the sun and the moon, and comes all track locations, all levels of black hole. Center lines is communication line surface and track location. Complicated, right? So that's 1 center calculation, 1 habitation in travel location setting. Process communication lines is 1 center connecting high center interference of portal line communications. Direct calculates lines of cross line signals and cross line interference location and setting of travel. Very complicated stuff, right? This is high division lines and correlation lines of travel communications. Direct lines of clockings going forward and backwards now, right? So in 144 is going this way. It's always going this way. But you have to understand the provision lines and all lines of high calculation setting, how to use the pi generation lines correlation system, coming into 6 in correlation and coming into 9 attraction. Okay? Getting that position, the continuous force lines its signals in position of balance. The center core system is a line setting that separates everything in line condition setting, what's above and what's below in track location. Now, directing lines communication crosses lines circuitry and rotation surface and track location line condition setting through an atom. That's an atom. Now, an atom rotates its cycles, correlates its travels line rotations, and a 5 line rotation center measured. Core tracks interference, sun comes in, moon comes in, line condition setting to its program location system and travel. Okay, so let's color that in position of black. Core lines of black. Okay, with center core system, center core setting and track lines in gold. All right, so that's what it is. Your position lines correlates to track interference, comes in all calculations to its setting, right? So that's what your sun is, and that's where your moon is. Your sun and your moon opens up the pi generation of your clockings in your time sequence location to its black hole. Okay, and all set location. All right. So, and it only comes to you once you understand the grounds of you through platform, once you understand the flying mechanism of you through platform, and once it understands you through levitation, through travel. You have to understand your 3 central settings, especially when you're remote. Okay. That provisions its cycles in space and time opens up its portal communication screen lines and direct signals. Getting into that position location comes in all levels of on cue. Now, Gypsy comes in charge lines of portals, correlation lines, center interference. If you guys are off correlation setting, she sets up a new delta heading in position here in line communications. She sets up all communication lines in encoding. Screen lines adaptation in position of process know exactly how to direct and redirect your portals back in track location. It's all calculated modify how you come into wormholes, guys, in calculation modification and travel. All right, so getting direct line signals gets a lot of information in line high center interference. There's seating arrangements in calculation of setting, right? You know how you have seating arrangements on a plane? Well, you have seating arrangements on application platforms. All right, so setting that communication system, let's go through line screens. Direct lines modifications, flying mechanism. Okay, you're the angel of correlation. That's you in calculation. That's you and the angel. Okay, so this is you in platforms. Okay, levitating. And basically this is you in platforms, communications, and grounds. 3 central calculations so you understand how this all works in 24, 48, 72. Okay, so You have to really understand how this all works. Okay, so let's say you have a tower on the grounds on platforms 24, 48, 72, 144. Once it reaches 144, the platforms change. This is levitating. This is going through laser line grids. This is an XD1000 trying to understand where is it going in its cloud screens, right? Direct signals into modification of platforms. What the XD1000s do is they just dock their system and travel. That's all they do. They don't do anything else, right? They're distributors. They help you in all lines of guiding likeness setting to your position location, to your cart, your caches, your correlation settings, your application system, your ingoing mail, your outgoing mail, your outpost. It all communicates to a setting through travel. Understanding the platforms and position of grounds, space and time comes to you in track location. Okay? Space and time of you comes in track location. Okay? Space and time of view comes in track location. See how that works? Through the grounds, through levitation, through flying, through an angel, archangel, right? There's always portals that open up, right? The mechanism of force line is really understanding how to process the grounds, how to understand the levitation, and how to understand the flying mechanism locations to your archangels or meta angels or meta archangels, all right? So there's also all communication settings in position of travel, right? But you're all coming into your planes and line setting location in your system. The species line is coming into the existence of planes. The team is in position of non-existence of planes. So that's the invisibility where it comes in line connecting setting through their charters and their waters in position to the settings because they're now invisible. They're cloak and dagger in set locations. So they're cloud lines of communication lines and high center interference. Cloak and dagger in all ways, information screen lines, adaptation lines of surface. Putting process of all communication setting and travel correlation. Understanding the grounds, understanding the levitation, going through portal. Everything goes through a portal. Everything has to go through a portal because you're constantly going through a frame by frame by frame. The seconds, minutes, and hours changes lines of communication and clockings, all right? So we got 47. Let's go through 47 million frames. Okay, so 47 million frames. And we go into, let's go into 20 lines equals lines of seconds. Remember, seconds, minutes, hours can change now because you have to understand direct and redirect because you're going forward now. This is forward and this is back. Okay, forward, back now. The center core system, center core settings, the Earth, platitude lines, ground centers, power centers, atmosphere location. So you have to understand the mechanism line connection setting your flux and communication system and travel correlations. That's what it is in tractions. Once you understand that, then you understand the center core of your Earth line rotation surface and track location. So you have to understand the mechanism clockings and line communication setting and travel. Points, lines of graph going forward in positional platforms going this way in track location. Once you understand that, then you understand that you can expand your platforms at all direct signals and all communication setting. Okay, you can set your platforms in any way you want to your data highways. This is all levels of expansion, guys. That's all it is, right? All right, so in this seconds, it's amazing how you can basically, remember I told you about the trifactor where you box the lines of 3, let's say 6 in position of 1, and you box the 3, okay? So in position location 3 is here now. Let's say 1's here, and 6 is here, right? So in position location of box into mainframe, right? Box, right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Dollar sign, correlation lines attractions, dollar sign, correlation lines attractions, strangulation, box, position travel lines, equals lines, manifestation. Okay? Because you boxed it in. If you box numbers in, it protects your settings of your data formation screen lines. If you don't box it in, you expose it through a sent-in. So I want you guys to understand that's where it changes all communication to your flux and communication lines and anxiety and fear and your depression, your anxiety, location, setting, and travels. Points, lines, and graph in mechanism line calculation setting. Once you stand the balance of you in all track location, it gets much easier through the grounds, levitation, and mechanisms of flying. Okay, but that's how it's set up when you automatically go in remote. You're on the grounds, you're levitating, or you're flying. There's 3 cycles that you only go through to start with. All right. Once you get past that communication lines, you have to understand your body can change mechanism, anything through geometrics. Once you understand the position that you're in calculation line centers, you're in the center operation. You are in the center operation of everything correlation equals lines of GOD. Okay. North line equals lines of GOD. Okay. South line equals lines of GOD. And all calculation lines, GOD. Okay, so you got the east line, west line, south line, north line. All those are GOD. But you stay in the center. You don't move. Once you understand the platforms, it gets much easier through travel. Center core system, panel correlation lines, attract lines of center communication. Direct lines, solars, screens, high center interference, CD-ROMs, a correlation line traffication of files and data. Process communication lines of platforms, sets communications in one direction setting, and set application of clocking. Clocking line communication crosses line screen. And a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sets lines, sun and the moon comes in traction, all direct signals in position location is northeast in set location. Directs lines of platforms, sets communication lines. So here's another connection to the sun and the moon. Remember, these are all different portals that you can go through the sun and the moon. Sun and moon in the same projection. Setting communication lines of the sun and the moon here. Setting communication lines of the sun and moon here. Right? 4 track line positions of the sun and the moon. All through line center high interference platform communications that you can go through in all directions. So that's what I'm saying, going through all atmospheres in 1 second and travel. So let's set the security line defense and a 4-track provision, cross-line signals. Right? So you look at that. You went through 4 portals of wormholes and black holes in line conditions of line center high interference and navigation setting that travels 1, 2, 3, 4, all through platforms of 5. Okay? Very powerful stuff, guys. Right? Sun and the moon, sun and the moon, sun and the moon, sun and the moon. Right? So once you understand the grounds of you, okay, you have to understand the mechanism, location, settings. Grounds first. Okay? Now, either way, you can be a trifactor of flying or levitating. It doesn't matter. What matters, you have to understand how to go through a UFO and how to travel through lines of flying. Flying is the ethereum. Planes is the galactic, is the angelic planes. Megaplanes, multi-layered planes, galactic line communication of planes, mecha planes. So you have to understand all different levels of travel, all through fly in position of archangel or archangel. Levitating is all levels of UFO attractions. All they do is set up laser grids in cloud line screens and magnetic high force. Ground lines, high center interference, is the correlation track lines, okay, to all positions. So the ground lines is the higher self, okay. The UFO is the avatar and its locations and travels. Now, the position of flying 2 is a 2A track location, 2A line divisions, right? Sets lines of levitation, that's also avatar. So is this in position travel lines, right? By getting into systematic line screen and direct line condition is your sim that basically is all levels of the structured design lines of its maze and trackification, which is the mind, okay? Location grids, center core settings, set position of travel, right? That's the sim. Avatar, higher self, equals Earth. Avatar equals GOD. And your sim is your graph correlation setting that travels in data. Okay? Inside correlation lines, calculation travel lines, and you can make use the sun and the moon, comes a line communication setting in position, operation, surface, and travel. So getting that communication setting, now you exactly know what the sun and the moon does in line position of clocking. How it can go to 4 different lines of channels in the same waving cycle and high generation screen lines, adaptations of platforms and communication setting, all levels in 1 rotation surface. All at once. 4 atmospheres in position of portals and wormholes in a black hole and calculation of wormhole. So getting into that position locations, space discoveries, we're talking about the clocking settings. This is where it comes into platforms. This is what the team is coming into because they understand that they're going forward and backwards now. Their clocking is not going this way. It's going this way. So their direct line signals is because they already gone this way through platform. Now they're going to cross line signal and go this way. Then they go this way and 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 this way. So they got to expand the Wi-Fi. They got to expand the exponential locations, the expeditions. They got to get into the exploring. They got to get into the awareness of consciousness of everything around them through platform. How they can basically get into that position, into its complacement, into jump scar line condition setting of heat signatures and travels. Point lines of graph calculation setting. Okay, going this way in tractions. All right. Now you've already done that. That's the clocking going this way, right? Sets position of volos. Let's calculate high interference at 24. 0, 1. Okay, 0, 2. All right, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0, 5, 0, 6, 0, 7, 0, 8, 0, 9, 10, and 11. So once you get into 3-digit line communications, it comes into higher correlation lines of travel, right? So this is going in that direction, right? But the team is going in this direction now. So it changes everything through clocking, right? So the clocking system is going this way now through pi, right? So you have to get out of these equations and you have to understand this way. Clocking goes this way now, right? Because you have to understand the platforms are going forward and backwards, right? So this is going forward and this is going backwards now. Clocking system is a zero line correlation setting that puts position lines of travel in line condition setting to your Earth and track location. All right. So understand how to use that as one single line communication set in all lines of communications. Sets lines of communication your flux into all lines that correlate interference of your capacitor. Sets communication line signal. Sets communication line signals in position to all levels in calculation. Line conditions, highest interference. So what are you in position of? Intelligence. Then you correlate the calculation of lines, screen lines, and location to its settings, face recognition. There's the intelligence. All formations. Right? So you're always in the center operation of face recognition configuration. But once you understand your clocking system, it gets a lot more easier when you're going forward and backwards now, right? So you don't get confused. Setting line communications. So backward is going back in time. So the sun and the moon comes in position remote in center core setting. That puts you going this way in track locations, right? So you have to understand how this all works. So backwards is actually going forward because you're going into the future line of communications, future communication setting. That puts the process in position of its past and track location, right? So going back in time is actually in the future of the past. Now, once you get in that position, it's a triangulation line, splits lines anomalies. You come out of the track line position line at its past location, right? The center core system sets lines. You're in this position tractions. X marks the spot, your location, meeting your friend, in arrival, in set location. Boom, right there. All through this to get to here. Okay? So you reiterate, you're doing it all over again, but in position, you have to cancel everything out before you travel, right? So you got to cancel this, this, and this. You got to cancel it out, right? You have to cancel all three, right? So when you cancel all three, it puts everything in position. So all this disappears, right? And then you basically, you're here. When you're ready to leave, you set up a new line communication that travels back into the center core system and a line condition setting of Kilo Mike and track location of Romeo. Puts all center line communications in a portal line communication line interference. Pluto always comes in attractions and center core center line conditions back to its remote. Okay? So I'm just showing you how your clocking is now different from all platform communication, all through the sun, right? Of what the sun can do and what the moon does. The sun and the moon come together. And they have to understand the communication of your platforms. Once you understand your platforms, things get a lot more easier. Right? So understanding the platforms is understanding you flying, is understanding you through levitation. Right? So there's 3 ground centers, and that's all done through the mind center location. So higher self, Eagles lines, craft lines, Schumann resonance. Okay? Avatar, Eagles lines of everything of God and mechanism of travels. Okay? And then you get your sim, Eagles lines of graph, and schematics in calculation setting, simulation in calculation. That's all it is. Ground centers, power centers, atmosphere location. Okay, higher self, avatar, sim. Okay. Navigation, all through graph, all through schematics, all through primer, all through clocking. Avatar, all through structure, all through schematics, through its geometrics of its operation, of its delta heading. Higher self, its Earth set locations, graphing calculation setting, Schumann resonance, weather panels, summer, spring, winter, fall. And that's what the team is coming into. Okay, the correlation line track is the Earth line rotation surface in track location. The 4 central settings, the 4 correlations, and the 4 division lines that calculation of atmospheres. So 444 travels lines that equals lines of 4 track line provision. Setting that communication lines is really to stand the 4 line settings, 4 line communications, and 4 atmosphere line screens. Sets 4 line calculations setting the travels. Sets lines equals lines of the mind. Sets communication lines of the sim. Sets communication lines and all of the avatar. And sets communication equals lines of correlation lines to your higher self. That's how it's set up. So equals lines of mass and calculation, right? 4 line communication line screen high center interference equals lines of speed and track location. And 4 lines equals lines is the geometric, which is your engineer. And 4 lines equals lines is your Schumann resonance of your weather panels and position locations and settings in all levels of spring, summer, winter, and fall and track location. That's how it's set up. 4444. Split lines of panels and track lines of high center interference and calculation setting equals lines of correlation lines of all levels of this binary going up and going down cross location of system and travel. Points lines of graph calculation line screens and high definition lines of surface and track location. All through setting. So now you understand the basic grounds of the higher self, what it does, and understand the avatar, what it does through schematics. Everything's schematic. Everything's schematic. Everything has to be. But you have to be in detail of what each one is in representation, set location of its calculations. What is the higher self? What is its job? What is its avatar? What is its job? What is the sim in position of? And what is the mind of? Its location. All right? Getting into that through structure gets a lot more easier to understand you through platforms of the sun and the moon. Very powerful stuff. You're in the center of operation that never, ever, ever leaves. It's the mind that does everything on navigation. It's the brain that does everything in set locations. It's the line connection of the heart does everything through alignment of time, and its positions, calculates the lines of the soul does everything through light, and it's the body capacitor that does everything through its geometric of shape anomaly that changes the communication setting, how it changes the waves, the frequencies, and everything through its central system of center operation. All through calculations. Okay? Yeah, it's really understanding more lines of signals now, guys. But that's really breaking it down, what the higher self, the avatar, and the sim, and your mind does. That's all the way it's set up. Break it down, break it down, break it down. Break down the letters. And I'll track location of graph. All right, so I just wanted to show you how this all works. So you had a better mechanism line screen location in your systems when you understand more lines of communication when you go into remote and when you're lying down through the grounds, levitation, or flying through portals of communication. Okay, that's going to help you understand more of what the avatar is going through. It goes through the grounds. It has to go through the grounds. Okay, it has to go through the grounds before it gets into levitation, before it gets into flying, guys. You don't just closing your eyes and all of a sudden you're flying. No, you got to go through the grounds first. You got to go through 24, 48, 72, 144, because now you're leaving the tethers of the earth. And I'll show you exactly how it sets the location of your higher self. What the higher self controls is everything of Schumann resonance, guys. It's all through graph. That's all it is. It's just a graph. It controls the weather panels of everything in center rotation, surface, and track location. It controls everything in mechanism, likeness, and setting. Weather. Summer, spring, winter, fall. Higher self equals weather. Higher self equals core. Higher self equals mechanism. Higher self is its own geometric. Everything a higher self, the avatar, and the sim has the same thing. The mind does everything and all collaboration, all through alignment of the mind, the heart, the soul, and the body comes together, and all central calculation. All right, that's all it is. Now the team is coming into weather panels. Okay, all right. This is where it comes into alchemy, chemistry. All right, hands, healing hands. Getting direct line signal, all through modification system, is understanding the higher self and what does it do through graphs of the Schumann resonance. It goes through the flux, it goes through weather panels, right? 4-track vision, 4 calculation lines, 4 centers, and 4 calculation setting, right? 4 lines, 4 lines, 4 lines, and 4 line location. Weather communication lines, Schumann resonance, weather line, correlation setting, travel lines, direct lines, modification line, and high interference. Ooh. Okay? It controls its weather of its Earth rotation. All right, so let's go through this again and calculate these lines. All right, this is the higher self. Okay, you guys can understand this. This is your Earth, right? That's your Earth. You're on the Earth, right? Rotating, 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 rotating. You're rotating through the grounds of the Earth in position of process communication. That's what's happening with you, right? You go through the grounds, you go through powers. This is how it sets location you're sending the travels. That's all it is. That's all it is. But you're titted through the grounds, a 3-track location, past, present, future, right? Now, the team has already cut the cords, right? So they're already here. They're already traveling, right? But the Earth is there. They're tethered here. Flying mechanism lines screen and position the Earth through telepathy. Sending travel lines and high center interference sets correlating track interference. Once you stand the balance of the ground lines, comes into platforms, right? You have to go through your platforms, right? Then the sun and the moon comes in, position, location of travel, right? Then position of sun and moon comes location, position of travel for the avatar to go through, right? So sets location higher self going through. Sun and moon comes in, set location the avatar, sun and moon comes in, you go through travel, you go through travel. That's all it is. And same thing with the X2000. 3 cycles, guys, and location setting. Levitation, platforms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Sun and moon comes in and track locations traveling through, right? So X2000 goes here, X2000 goes here, X2000s go here. So you're getting used to the atmosphere line screen and direct signals and applications, right? But the sun and the moon comes to all of the U in formation screen lines, adaptation, and calculation. Okay? So I just want you to understand, so you get a better understanding how to understand the mechanisms of what the higher self, the avatar, and the sim do through modifications to its mind, because it's all collaboration of one. It's one alignment of one clocking, one location, one division, one modification, right? Everything is one. The basic ground, guys, is to understand that you have 2 lives. The second one is reminding you, you only have one. Okay? It's so powerful. So powerful. Once you understand the platforms of you, of the sun and moon through clocking, and a 4-line communication, all through platform. Okay? All right. How's everybody doing so far? Getting a little bit more understanding? Mind-blowing, isn't it? When you break it down, all through graph, higher self, avatar, sim, and the mind. There's nothing else. All right? So once you understand the mind, you're coming into line communication of mass, the equation, right? Which is pi. So all it is. It's the structure inside. This is the map. This is what you basically, this is the mind. It's all of the application of its cortex. That's the mind, right? So once you get into that, I'm just breaking it down in the high signal location, you're setting the travel lines. Now you get in position of travel lines, the core line interference of the sim. Sim is the graph correlation lines of graphs in communication and position of data and files. Sets communication, sets communication, set communication. That's what the sim does. Whoa! Sim goes to the modification of the mind. Mind goes back to the sim through data and files. It's set location line centers. The avatar comes into another geometric shape of its God system calculations, Whoa! And then you go, in line communications is high interference, a higher self that controls the human residence of an Earth location. That's all this is. I'm breaking it down for you guys so the team understands what's going on with your clockings now. How to understand the representation, how to use your higher self in both ways, a direct and redirect application. This is going to get you a better way to understand the co-creation that you already have your mindset through a holographic city of set design that's already in mechanism likeness and setting, how to use it through its alignment of its frequencies in its clocking system. Okay? Now you understand the higher self, the avatar, and the sim, and what the mind does in applications through pi, right? So this is how it works in line communication settings, line communication system, right? Higher self, avatar, okay? Sim, the mind, right? So the mind's already done everything. Okay, so the sim is basically sending lines of communication system, right? The center line is growing the system and travel, and point lines of graph calculations. And you have the direct lines of the body coming in all mechanism lines of travel in position to its mind system location to its alignment. There it is. There's the alignment. Boom! Alignment. Powerful, isn't it? Now, if you look really close, you can actually see the center stream in line connection setting, all levels and set locations. See the watch? See the watch? See it? There's the watch. There's the clocking. There's the clocking. There's the clocking. All through mechanism, guys. All through mechanism. Let's change it. 4 lines of different direct location settings of travel. What do you see in traction? What do you see in traction? What do you see in traction? Let's open signals. What do you see in traction? Ego has landed. Okay? What do you see? Oh, wow, look at this. How many formation screen lines of 4-line coordinates and track lines can you see intelligence in that formation through a screen line? Adaptation location system. What is that in traction stuff? What does that look like in a formation line condition setting? What is this information location to a system? Okay, always see it in a 4-line communication. Okay. All right. So you get a better understanding how to see line communication setting all levels of travel correlates lines of tractions and direction. See? Intelligence, right? Now, what happens when you spin it really fast, right? It changes the trajectory, it changes location, it changes its travels, it changes geometric lines of shapes. But I just want you to get a basic grounds, what the higher self does, what does the avatar do, what does the sim do, and what does the mind do? The mind doesn't do anything, it's all done, right? But you have to understand they're all done. It's just understanding the alignment of direct and position locations of redirect and calculation. So direct lines and redirect set location. Direct going this way and travel correlates this way in position location, right? So you guys are no longer this. You're in this line connection now. Okay. So once you understand that, clocking gets a much more easier line screen because what you're doing is your clocking system is coming into 6. Once it comes into 6, it comes into cycle line communication line centers a set location of setting. The process communication lines comes into the 9 tractions, which comes in line signal in position of its operation surface, 6 and 9, right? See the fish? Now they go in the same swimming motion in correlation lines until they understand their system. They get into position lines of balance and track locations, but they go in the same direction, right? See? Same directions, right? Look. 6 and 9. Powerful, eh? 6 and 9. So once they recognize their system, they come into the affinity 8s. They rotate their system and they come in track locations. They create their anomalies in an inner space and an outer spectrum correlation. Once they get into that, they create a tether and set position to the center core system and travel correlation. 6 and 9. Once you understand that, comes into light and track location. That comes into dark and track location. Yin and yang. Right? So that's a process that the team is trying to get in position of, but you got to come in your line condition settings of your 6. You got to come into your 6 locations, which is your half pipe. Then you got to come into line screen high interference in position locations of your 9, which is your central system. Putting that position, so what you're doing is you're putting the center core system of 8 in position of tractions of balance. Finding that balance is all through platforms and data highways. So you can go down, cross, line, screen, lines, adaptation, lines of surface. You can cross up and track location. You can go across line signals and adaptation, line, surface, or you can cross down line communication of platforms of correlation. But it's all levels of an expansion in the mind, in the operation system of its alignments and traction. Okay? You're just creating a high calculus lines as subterranean line screen locations to a highway that sets position of your cloud lines and correlation lines of your network system. So you're creating a solar generation lines of a network line condition setting, how to use your Wi-Fi, how to use your modems, and how to use your communication in your body through transmitting and receiving information cycles. It's all communicating and setting all lines of communication, all through center core system of you through tractions and your highways and traction. All through intelligence, see? Intelligence. Hello. It's so powerful when you just basically just draw and have fun. Everybody's like, I don't know how to do pictures. Well, you don't have to do pictures. So just stick people like this in locations. Yay! Platform, flying, angel, archangel, okay? Levitating, travel, UFO location, right? For this, and this, right? Platform, traveling, okay? Flying, right? But they all have to go through platforms and they all have to go through portals, right? Everything has to go through a portal. Everything goes through the portal. So they go through portal through the files of a data, position, line condition setting, all track locations. You can get downloads in this center core system in travel lines and direct signals to location in Merkaba that you're in a travel location. All right? So it's really interesting how you go from this to this to this to that. Through flying, levitating, and walking, right? But you're always tethered to your earth and location at 3 settings in travel. Always tethered, guys. Now, when you start off, when you get into that position locations and what your more your identification is your higher self, your avatar, and your sim. Let's start with the 3 lines. We go into the mind line correlations. You're creating a communication line. What is that? Oh my gosh, that looks like a pyramid. Let's cross the signals, line communication setting, and position operation lines of surface. Laser direct signals, 1 panel correlation lines, elixir, cosmic plane, cosmic fire, and a 3-line panel and communication. Electrical lights, right? XT1000 comes in, sonar, says communications, right? Flash drive interference, high calculus setting, beacon lights and travel, correlation lines of tracks, right? XT1000 comes in, its allocations, right? Platitudes goes down to 2, goes into the center core of the earth. It communicates to the growthians and track location, right? Comes up division, okay? Flies out, sends the data back to the moon, right? Correlates communication, XT1000, another comes out in track locations going through the sun, going through line signals out through equation. See? It's amazing when you just have fun of recognition, knowing what the inner child can do, and all formations of travels and track locations, right? Understand how to use your energy line screen, how to use your voice and grids. Have fun with that. When you have fun with that, it's much easier to understand your settings, what's going on. What's going on with the drawing? What's going on with the image? I'm a narrator. I know how to write. Everybody's a writer. Everybody's the narrator of their own story. Story becomes equals lines of actualization location to its celestial ancestry and its history of you inside. Deeper, 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 deeper core. Now, once you understand that, you break it down, what the higher self does, what the avatar does, what the sim does, and what the mind does. Now, I gave you guys a better example how to use your clocking system. Now, exactly what's going on with you, right? Understanding that the mechanisms, it understands more lines of data, highways, and correlation lines of replication in your system, how to go through that information to its calculations. But it's amazing when you just have fun, when you just draw in sequence. You just draw in sequence. It's just more fun. There's no thinking. But it's so powerful when you just let yourself go in all correlations and calculation. Let yourself go. Be you. Be all levels of you. Get into the travel. Get into the mechanism. Get into the communications of yourself and all line communications of data. All right? So get in calculations of tunnels and sublocation lines. Get into the weather panels. That's where the teams come into. Get into portals and sun and the moon, what they create line communication of an atom. So it's really interesting when you formulate that, accumulate that, simulate that through all calculations, simuli. Calc line interference, zeta, zeta, gamma line interference, high travel locations, box lines, set position of 3 line communications, circle line, coordinate, track lines, high interference, high position program. Oh my gosh, that looks so simple. But it's so simple because I know what I'm doing in track location. All through operation of center lines of communication. All through center operation communication. Right? Everything travels, but you have to direct your signals first. You have to understand docking, and communication, right? Center core system. Okay. Track location. Open line signals, another portal, wormhole, black hole. Tunnel defense line screen. See? It's a lot of fun. We just have fun, right? But look at the center line, intelligence. See? Hey, buddy. So now we understand what this is, right? What is this? This is the throttle, right? Your throat, the claustrum. It's the lines at the base of the tree. If you look at a tree, because I know a tree is a dimensional line screen line, so it goes like this in location. Oh my gosh. Right? Okay, it starts that, right? Central core system, right? Goes up. Everything of a tree has a elixir, cosmic flame, and a cosmic fire. And they connect in another tree and another tree, right? But they all connect to each other, right? Central system, but to the grounds, right? To the grounds, in that location, right? So then you got the branches. Then you got the cloud. There's the tree. Now, if you look really close, you can see the lion. See the lion? See the eyes? A lion opens its mouth. There's the mane. All through a tree, all through formation, all through grounds, all through operation line cycles and traction. Right? So that was fun. Hope you guys had fun. I had fun. You have fun? Everybody's happy to have fun. It's about to have fun. It's not about having fun, just knowing to have fun. So you want to coordinate in that communication system and just have fun with yourself. Don't put any strain or line communication, everything that's going on in your system, just knowing exactly how to coordinate your system and understand how to control your emotional system of what you're doing through walking, flying, or levitating in set locations. All right? See you in 5.